Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I want to tell you about some of the most epic movies you can currently watch on Netflix. So this is a top 10 list, but with a few honorable mentions and some sequels rolled in, we're actually going to be talking about 14 movies you can currently watch on Netflix. They're all epic. Some of them are movies you've definitely heard of and probably seen. Others are going to be some more hidden gems that you likely have not seen. This video is sponsored by Universal Yums, which is a great partner with this channel. I'll tell you more about their great snack service later in the video. But let's go ahead and start off with my number 10 pick, which is not for everybody, mainly because it's got some very upsetting subject matter in it. But Hostiles is very well done. This stars Christian Bale and a whole host of other actors you're going to recognize, but it's got this very sort of brooding nature about it. This is about a small group of soldiers who are transporting a prisoner who happens to be sort of this very notorious and renowned native that they're bringing to another prison somewhere. And ultimately what this movie is really about is sort of the civilization of America. As everything's becoming more civilized, it would have been much easier to just do what you want with this prisoner and not carry him across this really dangerous territory where they run into all sorts of troubles and they anticipate that they're going to run into all sorts of troubles. It would have been much easier to not do that, but as the country's trying to become more civilized, they're trying to sort of like offer an olive branch and sort of make a statement with this move. And a lot of the side stories and side elements reinforce that overall theme. I thought this was a very good movie, but it is dark, it is slow paced. Like I said, not for everybody, but I do have some brighter, more uplifting movies on this list. Now my next pick is a Netflix original movie that I really love despite it being fairly historically inaccurate. The King actually has more in common with William Shakespeare's Henry V than it does with the actual story of Henry V. I actually did a full video on this. I'll link to it in the description below, but as a movie goes, I loved this one. I thought it was beautifully shot. It's got some great battle sequences in it and some really great characters that are fleshed out. Timothée Chalamet is an actor who's getting tons of praise. He's in the new Dune movie. He's won a ton of awards. He's good here. I liked him here. I don't find anything particularly special about him. I found some of the other characters, the supporting characters in this movie, to stand out way more than The King did. But as far as like a historical drama goes, this is one of the better ones that I saw last year. Now, I said I had some uplifting movies on this list, and Stardust is certainly epic, but it's also a ton of fun. It's very positive natured, even though there is good and evil happening in it. It's just a fun movie, and it is crazy epic. I mean, the amount of just sequences and effects and all sorts of stuff crammed into a movie that is not that well known is really surprising. If I were to compare this to an older movie that you probably know, I compare it to The Princess Bride. Different in its own respect, but very similar in a lot of ways, and I think people who still love and appreciate The Princess Bride would really get a kick out of Stardust. Now, in a similar vein, The Neverending Story is a fantastic fantasy flick from the 80s, and I am sure that not only did all my fellow 80s kids see this movie when they were kids, they probably watched it a bunch. I'm sure plenty of you owned it on VHS and watched it over and over again. And it is a good movie. It's extremely epic, tons of really great practical effects with puppets and miniatures. And it is this sweeping, epic story that you can watch with the family. This is one of the only family-friendly movies on this list. Now, it is dark for really young kids. My kids are 4 and 2 and way too young to watch this, in my opinion. But you get kids that are a little bit older, if they can get past some of the older visual effects in this movie, which I think they should, it'll open up their world to way more movies if they do that. This is a really fantastic watch for younger kids. Now, let's talk about one of the better movies about the Revolutionary War, and then we'll move on with the top 5. The Patriot stars Mel Gibson, Heath Ledger, and is an incredibly epic movie. It's one of the longest ones on this list. and it's just packed with battle sequences. But in addition to sort of the revolutionary style battle sequences, it also features early stages of guerrilla warfare where these militiamen are hiding out in the woods, tricking some of the redcoats to come in where they're killed and captured and everything like that. And it's a very, very good movie. It's got a couple of sequences in it that are extremely violent and extremely bloody. Because this came out after Braveheart and the studio was basically trying to recapture the magic that they had with Braveheart with the Patriot, they didn't quite succeed in that vein, but as far as telling a story about the Revolutionary War, I think this is a fantastic movie, especially if you've never seen it or if it's been a long time since you've seen it. Now, because we're covering epic movies, we're talking about movies that take place across history and also all over the world, which makes today's sponsor such a great fit. Universal Yums is a snack service. You sign up for a monthly subscription, which you can cancel at any time, and they deliver a snack box like this one to your door every single month, and it comes from a different part of the world every month. My latest box came from Egypt, and not only did I love opening it and enjoying all the snacks in there, but I actually opened it and tasted some of these things for the first time from Egypt with a movie that takes place in Egypt, and it is a movie that is further down on this actual list. Now, me and my wife, we make a night of it. We enjoy opening up the box and reading about all the different regions and stuff that it came from, but there's also little games and little forms that you can fill out to sort of vote on what you thought was the best and the worst in each box. So it's an experience, and at a time where it's hard to get out of the house and have experiences, which I think is so important, this is one that you can do safely at home. It's affordable, it's fun, I love it, and it pairs great with movie watching. So check out the link in the description, see if it's for you. There are 3 different boxes at 3 different price points, and just roll the dice and see where your next box comes from. But a movie night with one of my recommendations and a Universal Yums box seems like a great way to break the monotony of the quarantine. But let's go ahead and move on with my top 5 picks on this list. Now, one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies is also his most epic, and that's Django Unchained. Now, this is a Western, but in a weird kind of vein. It follows a lot of beats that Westerns follow, yet it doesn't really take place in the West. In fact, most of it takes place in the American South during slavery. Now, this is not a historically accurate depiction of this time in American history. While there are some historically accurate elements, there's a lot of inaccuracies, but that's not the reason to watch this movie. The reason to watch it is the story. This epic story of this freed slave that not only becomes a bounty hunter, which is how the movie was marketed, but that goes on this sort of epic journey to find his princess, his woman. And it is an epic journey. They go on this major sort of bounty hunting spree. Then they face off with Calvin Candy, who I think is one of the best original movie villains of this century so far. I think Leonardo DiCaprio was robbed. He wasn't even nominated for an Academy Award. I get it. You don't want to nominate someone who played a slave owner, but he killed it. Samuel L. Jackson killed it in this movie, along with the rest of the cast, some of which were nominated for awards, and deservedly so. I just thought DiCaprio's Calvin Candy was so all over the place. He's laughing, he's maniacal, he's got this weird twisted sense of what's right, and he played that so well. It's such a hard thing to do, and he nailed it. And then Samuel L. Jackson, this is one of my favorite roles of his because he had so much fun with it. So I really enjoy watching this movie, despite the fact that it's about horrible atrocities, and there are some awful bloody things that happen in this movie. Quentin Tarantino manages to make it entertaining without feeling exploitative or anything like that. While I'm a big fan of his work, I find this one and his most recent to be some of the more enjoyable movies that he's made. Now, my number 4 pick actually makes a decent double feature with Django Unchained because it takes place during the Civil War, which would have started shortly after the fictional events of Django. However, Glory is based on the true story of the first all-black volunteer company. This stars a huge cast. Matthew Broderick's technically like the lead role in it, but it's an early role for Denzel Washington, for which he did win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, Morgan Freeman, and a whole host of others, and it's an amazing Civil War movie. Not only do you get great battle sequences and a great depiction of the Civil War, but you also see sort of this weird racial divide where there are black men fighting in the war, fighting to end slavery in America, which ultimately led to the abolishment of slavery around the world, but they're still facing pretty brutal racism from people on their side. It's rough stuff to watch at times, but because it's so well done and so well portrayed by everyone on screen and behind the camera, it's an amazing movie. If you've never seen it, it's a little bit dated by now, but it's so well done that you're barely going to notice. Really fantastic stuff. One of the better movies Netflix has added in recent memory. Now, kind of like my number 10 pick, my next pick is not for everybody, but it does happen to be one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. Now, a lot of people don't like this movie. I get why. The music's odd, it's slow-paced, it doesn't follow a structure that you might be used to. All reasons why I love it. I think this is Daniel Day-Lewis's best performance, and that's saying a lot for an actor like that. Yes, maybe I like Bill the Butcher more, but as far as just accomplishment, I think this is pretty incredible stuff. He really does become a different human being here. And it's such a different take on how to tell a story in a movie. Not only is the cinematography beautiful, and not only does the Johnny Greenwood score just add this sense of like macabre and sort of darkness to this otherwise like historical drama. I just think the overall essence of this movie is so fantastic. And then if you want to pick it apart, there's this amazing story about these two guys just duking it out with each other and sort of trying to outwit one another. I love that aspect of it. It's just, I think it's perfectly told. I love the time period, the look of it. I love everything about this movie, but again, I can understand why some people just cannot stand There Will Be Blood. Now, before moving on to my top two, let's talk about two honorable mention movies. These are ones that are, again, not quite for everybody, but Jupiter Ascending is one of the later movies from the Wachowskis, who are most famous for The Matrix. This is a beautiful movie. It is stunning, it's epic, and it's also kind of a horseshit movie. It's got some awful performances in it. It's kind of stupid at times, but I enjoyed watching it once I was able to get past some of the just awful decisions that the Wachowskis made. Some of the awful decisions that some great actors made in terms of their performances. Get past that, which is a lot to get past. And again, this is just an absolutely stunning movie. It's actually quite a shame that it's not better, because everything that went into it, all the effort in the production design and all of that, it's just ruined with the things I've already mentioned. However, all that other stuff is just so beautiful and so epic that in my opinion, it is worth watching with the right mindset. And then War Horse is directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's one of his weaker movies in my opinion, but it's still Steven Spielberg. I mean, it is a good movie. This is about a horse who goes to war. It's nothing really special. In fact, it is a little bit slow. There's a lot of time spent on this farm in the beginning, but it's got a beautiful look to it, and some of the war sequences are really pretty beautiful. They can be dark and grim at times, but you really are following the story of a horse and some other characters. It definitely fits on this list, but certainly maybe like number 11 or 12. So with that said, if my number 2 pick is not the best Western of all time, it's certainly the most popular, most appreciated, most watched. And that is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now this is the final movie in Sergio Leone's The Man with No Name trilogy. The other two movies, both starring Clint Eastwood, being Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. Both great movies. And then with a similar structure and some similar cast members, he just basically made this incredible, epic Western. I think it might be the most epic Western of all time. It's not my favorite. I like his other movie, Once Upon a Time in the West, which was on Netflix and it would have been on this list, but it's gone now. But The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is kind of a rite of passage. If you consider yourself to be any type of a movie person, movie buff, movie lover, you owe it to yourself to watch this movie, because it's going to inform how you view so many other things that were filmed after it that took inspiration from Sergio Leone's work. And with that, my number 1 pick is not one movie, it's not 2 movies. It is the Indiana Jones trilogy. So naturally, Steven Spielberg has got to have some more love on this list than sort of my lukewarm review of War Horse. And the Indiana Jones trilogy is one of the most fun, most epic action adventures ever put to screen. When I said I ate my Universal Yums Egypt box with the movie, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Fantastic pairing if you manage to get the Egypt box, even though I think it's gone now. But I love that one, even though people don't really like the Temple of Doom that much. It was the first one I saw as a kid, and so I have a soft spot for it. And while I don't love the movie, I love, love, love portions of it. There are some amazing moments in that movie. And then The Last Crusade used to be my favorite. It's got some incredible, epic, it's got some of the best action sequences of the whole series, but the original is the original. And when you think about the fact that it sort of was its own thing at the time that it was released and was the first time something like that was made. Even though a lot of old movies influenced it, it was the first real massive action adventure of its kind. The introduction of Indiana Jones at the beginning is so iconic. The opening sequence with the boulder is so iconic. And the movie just continues with iconic moment after iconic moment, making it my #1 pick. Let me know in the comments what movies from this list you're most excited to be watching. Let's also thank the Patreon supporters who continue to support the show every single month without fail. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description, as well as a channel membership link if you'd like to just become a channel member right here on YouTube and get access to exclusive movie reviews and videos. However you choose to support the channel, it is much appreciated, but I will keep making videos like this as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this special episode, and you will see me on the next one.